happen right now. I was fighting some technical issues this morning, so I'm happy to see it work. I am Scott Stimson with International Computer Solutions, and we are the San Carlos Computer Club. And we've got Jim joining us now. Jim, I just hit the go button. We're live on YouTube right now. So welcome. Judy's with us, Cheryl's with us, Dad's here, Fred's here, Bill's jumped on his own camera. Everybody's looking good. It looks like this might work. If anybody does not have access to or has not seen the document I sent out earlier, I'll just stick that link in our chat right now. Oh, and there's Chester too, so the gang's all here. We were just hearing about Cheryl's travels, and we are live online now. And that is the document that I sent out earlier of some topics I thought would be interesting. But as always, I'm interested in hearing about your topics. And so please, anybody has anything? I'm sorry, I just got a text message from work and it's distracting. But if there's any stories out there, anything to share, anything that you guys are looking for help with, please shout it out now. Let's answer those questions.
Well, I think that my complaining to the Genius Bar at Apple and online to Apple, we got an update yesterday on our iPads. I think I did it.
Judy's update. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so remind us what the issue was you were having on the iPad.
My notifications weren't coming through. Of course, Apple notifications came through, but CNN didn't come through, Reuters didn't come through, the local ones didn't come through, and now they do.
That's right. You were having problems with those push notifications.
Yes, but on the other hand, I actually removed the app and it's not really reinstalling it, but re-downloaded it from the cloud and changed a couple of settings in the app, and so they're working. So who knows?
Well,
whether it was the update or whether it was my changing things.
Fiddling around. Well,
yes,
there was an update, and so it'd be interesting to follow up on that.
It's 17.0, I believe.
Well, we're going to call it the Judy app.
Exactly.
Update no matter what.
Exactly.
All right, but I want to know exactly the version update that you got too.
I think it's 17.0.
Wasn't it like 17?
Or maybe it was 17.5. What was it? Let me look.
I currently have one waiting at 17.6.
Oh, 6. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is.
Hey, now, Bill, you've got an iPad. Were you experiencing any of those kinds of issues that Judy was?
I don't use my iPad that much when I'm traveling.
And remember, I have a brand new, the M4 2024.
That's right. This is
that's
the
what
iPad Pro.
All the notifications work perfectly on my old one.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. There was a distinction between the new hardware and the old
hardware. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So that update may have fixed your problem.
It may have, or I may have fixed it myself. But then I was looking through my old equipment, and I had my old iPhone 10. And I put it on the charger, and it charged up, and all of a sudden it opened up. I had never, ever wiped it clean.
Your old iPad you never wiped clean?
No, my iPhone 10.
Oh, you never wiped clean.
No. So that was a little scary that I have an iPhone just laying around
with all your information
with all my information on it.
Yeah. That in itself is good reason for secondary authentications.
Exactly. But the weird thing is that I could not get it to erase, and whatever they call that when they redo it, the whole thing. So I ended up having to go down to the Apple store yesterday, and he just went zip, 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 and it was gone.
Yeah, I mean, for future reference, that now is in all modern operating systems.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And he had me do it once he got to there, but I couldn't get past some of the prompts. It wouldn't let me, but who knows?
Yeah, that's something you'll find in the Windows operating system, the Android operating, iOS operating. Now the ability to wipe out the entire
Yes.
device, me intentionally, and have it come
So
back up.
that's like a warning to people that have all their old devices just hanging out and have not cleaned them out.
Yeah, and actually, those old USB sticks and things of that nature, they hold on to information.
Mm-hmm.
They don't deteriorate. In fact, many times when you've lost the ability to write to them because of wear, they wear ready to be read, so you're able to actually get information out of them, even write to them.
So, on the note of wipe out your information on old, well, I noticed on the Viva bulletin board something about a store in Empalme that was selling computers and laptops and iPads. And I'm wondering if anybody will buy mine because they haven't been wiped out, the two that were stolen from our place.
Really?
And when I had my Find My,
Yeah.
I found them when they turned them on in Empalme. So
They were locked.
they were locked and everything. So if they, yeah, I don't know if they ever got into them or whatever, but
Well,
I can't.
they would have to wipe them if they were locked with your credentials. They'd have to wipe them just so that there was something there. Right? Whether the person purchasing it or the person selling it's worthless if they're not able to wipe it.
And it seems to me I did something in my on my new one when I logged into my iCloud. It shows something about your devices. And I seem to remember doing something where I deleted that from my list of logins or something, but I doubt that I was able to delete remotely
The
any of mine.
the data that's on it. I think the best you could do, and actually we'd have to verify this, but in fact, let me just do a quick search on this. It would be cool if Microsoft has that. You were running Windows 10, right? Oh, what?
Turn your camera
I'll
off.
turn off my camera while I'm eating my breakfast.
You're chewing. You're chewing on camera. Just not pop. So what I'm pulling up on this search is basically things saying that if you've set it up ahead of time, this is something an administrator to set it up so that you just say wipe that laptop. I believe Macintosh has that as part of its report stolen stuff. It's just to delete it as soon as it. But does not look like Microsoft has something. You could just say this is. No, I think you're. What's in your favor is it's not in they can't sell it if it's locked under your credentials. Now the thing with the Windows laptop is that if you're not running encryption, which is on by default, which is the bane of my existence, but if you're not running encryption, then your information is available on as a hard drive, and so if they can boot it up under an operating system, there's a chance they can be able to get inside the
Leslie
hard
Lear,
drive
Judy
and
Mao,
see your
or
data.
two others.
Jim's getting phone calls. Yeah, that's the only unfortunate thing about not using encryption is on the chance that your device is stolen from you. Given the correct circumstances, somebody can get at the data that's in it. And most of our data lives in the cloud to begin with. Most of the things are susceptible to services that you sign. But things like pictures you may have stored on your anything you've written, any documents, things you've created on. So that's an argument for having encryption on. I sure go back and forth on encryption. If you're paying attention to this CrowdStrike fiasco that brought down travel, one of the things to make it even more complicated is that if you were running encryption, you couldn't get at the hard drive when it started having a problem starting up. Start giving you that blue screen asking for you to restore the system or use a repair on the system. You go into the repair, and unless you had an encryption key, I mean, first of all, somebody had to manually. The computer was down, and somebody like myself was sitting in front of it. And at the moment you're going in to repair that computer, if you don't have the encryption key, then you don't have access to the hard drive. The data inside the hard drive is recoverable. You have to have pre-saved that key somewhere so you can go back and do this kind of. Otherwise, you have to wipe out the computer, start it up from scratch if you don't. One of the reasons that I'm not a big fan of encryption on our personal devices, but it is a downfall when something gets stolen. There is a security risk there. Our passwords in the browser are protected. If you're using the browser like Chrome for password management, it's protected behind encryption. Bitwarden, LastPath, these other password management the same way. And hopefully your stolen device, if you're using a password manager like that, you have some kind of first password authentication you have to satisfy before you can get into that list of passwords. A good password manager would not allow you to keep a list of passwords unless you have these barriers you have to get through. Master password, and all the password managers that I'm aware of, you would need to satisfy that so that those passwords are available, and that would be a security risk that you would be taking by having a stolen. Wasn't in, you still have your passwords in a password, which gives you another level of security under those circumstances. But the best security would have been if it had been encrypted to begin with. They would have been blocked by the encryption, so none of that kind of access would. So again, I go back and forth. I feel like we deal with many more problems where encryption has gotten in the way, such as my example with the CrowdStrike stuff. And at the same time, in Cheryl's circumstances specifically, if you did have sensitive data on that computer, it is at risk of being exposed because it's stolen. And the Macintoshes have a remote wipe and they force encryption, so most people running a Macintosh utilize their encryption. And because of the way the Macintosh devices are built, there is not an easy access to that data. You can hack very easily. Actually, I'm saying that. But anyway, that's yeah, that is what it is. Any other topics or Chester's got his hand up. Chester, save me from myself. What have you got? And you're muted at the moment. Still muted. I can't unmute you. Mute yourself.
Sorry about that. I was just talking away.
Go right ahead. Start from the beginning. Start.
Since
start
since
from
you're
when.
not
Oh, go ahead.
that enthusiastic about encryption for a single individual computer, I assume you like the dual authorization.
The second factor authentication. The unfortunate thing about not using encryption on the device in front of you is that if somebody else can get in front of that device, it's susceptible to having your data taken. That's the frustration of not using encryption on the device in front. All the other things that you do, the things online, all these things are subject to encryption, and the operating systems have not been encrypted up till recently. Macintosh was the first to do it by default. Windows 11 now does it by default. Windows 10 didn't. It was an option if you had a professional version of it on encryption.
Okay, so I'm running Windows 11. Do I need to set up double authorization?
I think that's a different issue. As far as you're talking about the two-factor authentication,
Yes.
I support two-factor authentication in all its forms because it just makes a more secure process. When you get an email, and this has happened to me before, saying, "Hey, are you signing in? Here's a code," and you aren't signing in, then that's a prompt to go change your password at some point. They've gotten far enough. They've gotten far enough in that you're going to the two-factor. Another example is the authenticator. I use Microsoft Authenticator for work in my device, and if all of a sudden the authenticator pops up on my screen asking for me to authenticate a login, somebody or something has already satisfied the password criteria. You follow what I mean? Something has put in my password correctly. And nowadays, that can be slightly more complicated than the actual password. That can just be a hash key that is being used between that service and your other service. Like, say, for example, you're using Microsoft Outlook, but you're pulling in your Gmail. There can be this encryption key between the two. But with the secondary authentication, if it pops up out of the blue, then you know something's gone awry, or something knows your password out there, and so it has stopped the ability to get into that system because it's looking for that next step. If you have that kind of experience, if you get a text message saying here's your authentication code for such and such, get an email saying this is your authentication such and such. And first of all, in all of these circumstances, just rattling off in general, you want to already vet that's an authentic way to get that information. Authenticator is an app that is dedicated to being vetted. Your email is not. Your email that email that comes in that says here's your authentication code for Facebook or for your bank, that could easily be a fake email. That could be the secondary portion of an attack that's being waged on you. They could have already gotten into your computer, and they're waiting for you to respond with that code. Kind of follow what I because
Can I ask you how to set up the dual authentication?
well, the frustrating portion of this is that isn't the easiest thing in the world. Sometimes it's as easy as flipping on a switch, but it depends on which service you're using. I was just getting myself set up on NetSuite, and that was the first time I'd had the experience where it popped up a QR code on the website, and I scanned that using Microsoft Authenticator, and it put all the information in Authenticator for the two-factor. Microsoft is not the only authenticator out there. Google has its own. I'm far from an expert in comparing and contrasting what works best for people in this regards. And the two-factor aspect ends up being executed, like I was mentioning before, coming to your email, coming to a text message. These are okay. These give you an extra layer of protection. But it's important to recognize how insecure email is just in general. An example of that is the spam and phishing emails that we deal with. And text messages in general are very unsecure. In fact, that's one of the things that they're hoping changed by adopting to the new RSS standard of text messages. Apple has agreed part of it. Android is going to be part of it. So we might finally text messages, making text maybe a slightly more secure way to do this. But the reason they get used for second factor authentication is they're just abundantly available. And most people aren't being targeted. So like if I'm a bad guy, I'm typically not attacking Chester Stone specifically. I have some bot out there that's trying to attack accounts in general. And so if two-factor is on, those general attacks are all of a sudden blocked because they have to go through a second step to be compromised. And that second step usually involves a person with a thing, in this case like an email or a phone.
I'd like to be more specific.
Yes.
The thing I'm most concerned about, of course, is my all the accounts I have with Schwab, which I access through Google.
Well, I think I can't tell you specifically, Chester. I mean, like you and I could sit down and work through each one of the ones that you want to get set up for two-factor. But I couldn't give you a general way to do it because each service has its own way of doing it. Without a doubt, Schwab does. And somewhere in your profile, you're going to find something about security and using two-factor authentication. And it will have various options for two-factor, like different levels of two-factor that you want to support. In fact, I'm a little nervous of getting a novice into an authenticator in the first place because we've had experiences where the authenticator becomes the problem, like it's secured against you. I've had more than one experience where the Microsoft authenticator fell out of date, and you were just sitting there not able to get into the resource because it would not work. And until you had the insight to go force the update of the Authenticator app, you had no access. And if there is no update, and that's the problem, then you're waiting for the update. And until then, there's no access.
So your suggestion is that I contact Schwab.
My suggestion is that any service that you want to turn on two-factor for, you want to implicitly go and look for it. Look for those instructions. Decide which two-factor you're going to be using, because it's going to be different in each circumstance. And try and combine it under one workflow. That's a bad way. Under one methodology is probably a better. Like as far as my work-related stuff, well, no, that's not true. Even as I'm adapting more of, I've standardized on Microsoft Authentic. I don't want to have a dozen different authenticators, and so I'm looking to, if that's an option in the service I'm trying to get connected, that's the option I'm picking. Not because I personally think that's the best one. It's because I have to use it for work, and so I've standardized it on just across the board. It's the one I'm going to. Yeah, Jim.
So with regard to the Microsoft Authenticator app on our iPhones, how do we access that? How do we turn that on?
Well, it's an app you download from and again, Jim, I am not recommending this particular authenticator. In fact, well, no, let me say, I've got the most experience with it now out of all of them. Okay, so if you
Okay.
if you're looking to get into an authenticator and wanted to ask me questions, it's the best one to ask me questions about.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Okay, I mean, I've already seen some problems with it, and I can't get out of it because we have to use it for work, and those problems have been resolved until the next time there's a problem. Anyway, you download it from the store, from your
Okay.
app store, Microsoft Authenticator. Make sure it comes from Microsoft. You sign into it with a Microsoft Services account, and then that's what you reference when you are turning on two-factor authentication. And again, like I was telling Chester, every service you use will have a slightly different way of turning on two-factor authentication. All of them will support it. It is the thing to support. So if you go into privacy and security and I'm speaking in general, the idea of privacy and security in your in whatever service it might be, whether at Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, any of these, it would be in the settings near where you would change your password. You would change your login methodology to two-factor and follow those instructions for Microsoft Authenticator. They may not,
Okay.
they may not have them for Authenticator. There are services out there that just won't recognize Microsoft as an Authenticator. But the ones I've used it with are, of course, Microsoft services like Outlook, Microsoft account, as well as LinkedIn, which I guess officially is a Microsoft account. It's a complete service as well. This NetSuites thing. It seems like I've got a couple others in there. Well, and the authenticator will double as a password manager, and that's a little weird with an iPhone because you've got a password manager built into your iPhone.
So, Scott, why,
Mhm.
if Chester was trying to do two-factor authentication with his uh, so-called bank, why would he do it through Microsoft? He wouldn't. He would do it through his bank.
This is just an app that provides the
I
function
understand
of
it's an
two-factor.
app,
Well, the app is vetted. The
but
well, the only other side of this is, are you going to use a dozen different apps to do this one function, which is
well,
providing
no, but
two-factor?
you use a dozen different banking apps and they have their own authentication, which would seem to be a bit more secure than using a general app.
Well, what we're talking about is the idea of two-factor authentication.
I understand that.
So, two-factor authentication has been standardized. And so
Hmm.
you can get that two-factor authentication in dozens of different ways.
Right.
So do
You
you
can
want to
get
get
it
it?
through your bank, is my point.
Well, when you get it through your bank, how do you get it? How do you get
It
that
asked
prompt?
me if I wanted two-factor authentication. I
Right?
click yes, and then it sends me a code.
And how does it send you the code?
Oh, depends. But
It
normally,
matters specifically.
well,
Matters
normally
specific.
they send it by my iMessage,
Okay. And so
which
this is,
deletes right after you use it.
well, in fact, it's not even usable
There,
more than once.
right.
It's completely deletable after you're done. But that
Exactly.
number is what gives you access in that moment.
Exactly. Yes.
And that number is exposed in the text message.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
technology.
it would not be exposed through Microsoft Authenticator.
Through
Is
an
that what you're saying?
authenticator, it would not be
An
exposed.
authenticator,
Yeah,
yes. Any
doesn't need to be
authenticator.
Microsoft.
Right.
But that's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
point of the authenticator.
Okay. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, apparently I'm confused. I was under the assumption that I'm better off getting my authenticator through Schwab than through Microsoft.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I think you might have gotten confused by Judy's reference there because it is a function. Two-factor is a function. It's outside of whatever service you're using. When you turn on two-factor at your bank, you're choosing how you're going to receive that two-factor. You're in their settings in Swab, they're going to support something like Microsoft Authenticator. They should support Authenticator. Let me state that specifically because of what we just stated. Text messaging up until recently has been compromisable, has not been encrypted, and is not considered a safe way to. You can bet the FBI, the CIA don't do authentication in that manner. They use something like an authenticator, which encrypts these messages in between your service and you, and relies on you, something you know and something you have. So when you receive a message through an authenticator, that's vetted for the device that's in your hand. You would get a message, you would get authentication from Swab. The question is, where do you receive authentication? Because it's two different pieces. Does that help, Chester?
No, not really, because once I get that number or the authentication number, as I understand it, then I delete that and I memorize that number.
Well, that number is only valid for that moment you use it. The moment you use it, it is no longer valid for anything.
Okay, then what happens after I use that number?
Well, then you've gotten access to your service. After you use that number, that's what vets you. The fact that you're there and you were able to receive this number and give it back to them. That's what verifies that you're Chester and you're the one that's supposed to have access to that service. As far as the two-factor system, like that number you received, that's not valid for anything anymore. It might as well be deleted. It won't help you ever again in the future. And
Yeah, I've had that happen several times when I've shut down my computer and then I start back up and then I get an authentication number through my phone, recognizing this computer as authorized to access the account.
when you're logging into Swab.
Yeah.
That's right. So it sounds like you're already using two-factor with Swab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Apple, if you've got Apple product, well, if you're using Apple services, different Apple products, they've got their own authenticator built in. It's not being used with all these different services, but it's used within Apple, and you've probably had this experience where you're able to hit a number on your Apple device. Well, you have had this where like you're trying to sign into your email on a new computer, and it sends a message to your iPhone specifically,
Yes.
or your iPad specifically.
That's correct.
Yeah, and you have to authenticate it, and that's Apple's own system for Apple's stuff.
Well, I'm not doing this through Apple. I'm doing it through Windows 11.
But what's showing up on your phone is that, and Chester, it's okay. I may not be able to tell you how to identify this correctly, but is that coming to you as a text message?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the second portion of this two-factor, how you receive this message. If you're receiving that message in an insecure manner, then I mean, it's all about how valuable you are as a target.
Well, they give me a choice. Do I want to receive it through an email or do I want to receive it on the iPhone?
Okay, well, is it receive it on an iPhone or receive it as a text message?
As a text message.
Okay, because that distinction's important right now, and it may be changing shortly. But neither email nor text messages are considered secure. And so when you receive secure information in a method that's not secure, then you've opened up an attack surface. And if, Chester, somebody was to target you specifically your Schwab account, then they could be trying to log into your account and intercepting that text message that gives them the number to verify they are you.
But that's coming in on my phone, not on their phone.
Well, I understand that distinction, but the point is the text messages can be duped. They can be taken. They can be cloned. Your phone can be cloned, and that text message isn't encrypted. And
So they have to clone my computer as well as my phone.
No. All they would need to do is be able to intercept that text message. Actually, they don't even have to clone your phone. They just have to intercept text messages coming to your phone number. It's actually, text messaging is actually so incredibly insecure that it would never be used for any real security stuff. You would never, like I said before, you never find an FBI agent or a CIA agent dealing with text messaging in its general 80% of all people using form.
So I should receive these codes on my computer rather than on my phone.
Well, no, you should be. I mean, if your concern is that level of security, and remember, we're talking about the receiving end, not the sending end. And so you have to determine what kind of threat that you feel you're at. But that's the point of the authenticator. The authenticator is a way of sending you encrypted messages of security.
But you're forgetting it's two-factor. He's already proven who he is. They're just verifying it again.
Well,
Isn't that right?
I'm actually not forgetting that, Judy. That's my point with Chester's. You have to decide what kind of risk you're at to feel like you need to use an authenticator. You have to have determined that you think somebody is trying to target you specifically,
Okay.
and so they're going through these.
What if I don't think anyone's trying to target me?
Yeah, exactly. So you know the risk, and you're making the choice of using an unsecure system like text messaging, emailing, to do your two-factor. It's a chink in the armor. You're still two-factor, even through email or text, brings up a barrier that is so much more sufficient than not using it. Just the fact that they have to go through that extra motion of sending you a message. Do you follow what I mean? Like, just the fact that you've said it won't just log in. I have to get a code, and then I have to put that into the web browser to get access. Adds such a large layer. Security, they refer to it like an onions, and it adds one more layer to what a bad guy has to penetrate before getting access. And a lot of the crime that's happening is this really low-hanging fruit. It's not these intricate attacks. That's why Judy's point is valid, and why I say you kind of have to vet yourself, because if you don't want to get into an authenticator, that's fine. This is the threat level that you are circumventing by getting into an authenticator. Sense. It would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be great if we were all just accustomed to using this kind of software. It's kind of like a digital key set that only you can use. But we're not and always we're trading off security for convenience. That's the real thing that you have to understand. And convenience has a lot of value. The ability to just hit a couple buttons and do what you're trying to do is so powerful that people give up security for that power. The police rely on you giving up that security. When you get pulled over, they will use your phone to facial unlock you, given suspicion. And we've got precedents for that not being a violation of your rights. And what you've done by allowing facial recognition on your phone is you've taken a level of security away by creating more convenience for yourself. If you really wanted to make sure those kinds of circumstances wouldn't happen to you, you'd never enable biometric security in the first place. Because in these circumstances, the law has been clear. If they have to, they can't get you to give up your passcode, but you give up your face every day. Every time you walk out of the house, you've given up your face. Every security camera you've walked into, you've given up your face. And so we it's been precedent. They've set precedents that they can use your face to unlock your device. They can use your fingerprint. You give up your fingerprints every day. You grab glasses and doorknobs and you give up your fingerprint. In fact, this is one of the reasons we need a movement of people saying my face and my fingerprint are not my password.
How about the voice?
Well, the voice would be the same thing. It's just not as commonly used. It's a different kind of technology. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, Schwab uses the voice.
The problem is, and people need to realize with biometrics, is these are not your passwords. These are your usernames. Your face is your username. And you need to think about it like that. You leave your fingerprints everywhere. The only reason you can use a fingerprint to open a phone is because it's convenient, not because it's secure.
I want you to see me in my nightgown.
Okay, hold on. Turned it back on when I asked my question.
I'm gonna mute you too, Jim. But yes, so this topic we've kind of floated all over the board. Judy has a question. She's got her hand up.
I do. I've been getting in my email, and I use Gmail through my iPad. So it keeps saying to me, unable to load remote content privately. So then I have to click on it to load content. I can't seem to change that.
So is this every email or particular emails?
Well,
Like
I
if I
don't know.
sent you an
It's
email, I bet you wouldn't get that.
no, but you don't have photos and all that
Yeah,
stuff
there
in
you
it
go.
either.
That's actually, I'm glad you said that, because that's really the point. Is that in those emails, and this is an example of how insecure your email is. Those emails link to outside assets outside your email out there on the internet, just like a web page does.
Well, I understand that, but if I have told this thing one time to load it, then it should know going forward, like Camping World is a place that I want it to load.
Well, you would hope it would work that way, but you are
Doesn't.
fighting the security of your email.
I
They're
know,
doing the
and I've
best
gone
they
through
can.
and I've taken out the two. There was load remote content, and I've changed all that. I've changed it back, and it didn't stop it at all. And this is new. This is relatively new.
Are you experiencing it across all your devices?
I don't know. Well, on my phone, yes, and my iPad, yes. I don't use my MacBook to open that kind of stuff usually.
You know, the kind of setting and concern that you're talking about it's such a large concern at any moment. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if Apple throws down a setting into your device saying, don't let these pictures open because we
Right.
found a new security problem and we can't
Hmm.
let you do that right now, not until we
But all I have to
updated-
do is click on it and it loads it.
Well, that's right, because probably over 90% of what you're receiving is not the security concern. But because like we've had these issues in the past where
Mhm.
they found a way to get something into your computer simply by viewing a picture.
Oh, okay.
And so
But these are sites that they are in my contacts. They are emails that I get frequently.
I'm talking
So-
yeah. I'm telling you about just an indiscriminate, we've seen a security threat and
Okay.
we're going to override your settings. That
So I
would-
should tell them, thank you so much for doing this. I
But-
should then.
What is it
Yeah.
that Steve Jobs told everybody? You're holding it wrong, Judy. There's only a right way to hold your phone.
Oh, by the way, we have 8 minutes.
Oh, on this meet, should we go ahead and open the next? Cheryl, please. What's your question?
Well, Sorry, but we're talking about encrypting and everything. Did you know that Bugs Bunny won't accept files through Google Drive? He'll only accept a WhatsApp doc.
Bum.
And on that note, we probably have to check out this morning. So, well, we do have to check out in about the next 15 minutes. So we won't join you in the next.
Okay, very good.
And
Any last words, Cheryl?
check on.
Tech on. You guys have fun.
Okay, talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, I stuck the link to the next meet in our chat there, and I've got it rolling, so we can move over to it. And this is what it looks like. I'm all.
Doesn't work when I go through that way, so I'll just go through the other way.
You on your iPad?
I am.
It would be nice if they would fix that.
Well, it would, but you know.
Well, they're trying to make that Pro the laptop. Hey,
I know, and it really does work very well. I don't know which meet I'm on.
You're still on the original meet.
Okay, so I want to switch.
I got Jim over here now and Chester over here now.
I'll
Waiting
try
for
and
Fred.
just waiting for me. Actually, I'll go out of all of it.
Out into one of my topics. I love talking about this stuff.
Am I in the new one or the old one?
Fred, you're still in the old one. But if you look at your chats, there should be a link to the.
I thought I already hit the new one.
Oh, here we go. Admitting Judy. No, you're not even on the list to be admitted yet, Fred.
All right.
We've been having a big how about you, Jim? Is it hot up
Did
there?
I get there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, down here too.
No, not yet, Fred.
It's been real hot.
Yeah, here too. In fact,
Do you want to manually put in the number?
at 3 this
Well,
morning, it
on
was 75
the
degrees
thing
outside,
here,
which is
and I'm
really
hitting the
hot.
code.
It's like San Carlos.
Well, are you on an
I
iPad?
know.
Yes, I am.
Okay, that link will not work from an iPad.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it looks
That's
like we're 91 right now.
That's what Judy and I were
Uh-huh.
just complaining about. Like these new iPad Pros are beautiful devices. What Judy's new computer is amazing. It's one of the most powerful
It is.
computers in the world, and it's handicapped only by the restraints they've put on the software that can be put in it.
It has nothing to do with my current iPad.
Okay.
However,
Do
I've
I have
never
to
been able
close
to
the one
click
I'm
on the
on
link that you
before I
send
can open
through
the other
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
the messages.
But,
I always have to go in through the email that you send.
but only in the iPad platform, and it's just one more example of how this
Mm-hmm.
can't be a desktop computer because of these kinds of constraints on it.
Some of the
Well,
other things that are
I'm looking
an
at Judy
issue
and
are
Chester and Jim
how you have to
and
save
you.
a file or how you have to view a file.
Am I
I
not
find
there?
it kind of cumbersome on an iPad or phone. It's
What?
really easy on my MacBook.
Hold on a second, Judy. You guys probably can't hear Fred. I'm still in the meeting with Fred. He's trying to make his way over. Fred, if you look at the what you'll have to do on your iPad, Judy. What did you do to get on?
I
You
went to
the
your email and clicked on the link in the email.
So Fred, if you can open up the email and click
That's
on.
where I was. That's where I was coming off of.
Okay, and so it's the second link. It's the one that starts with YAH.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay, you should just have to click on that. It should open it up.
Okay, let me close this one out. Well, I'm looking right now. Well, it went away.
Well, that's because here. Let me broadcast something. Here's the document. This is what I'm broadcasting. What
Okay.
you're seeing is me swapping between meats.
I actually
Okay.
had to
Let me kill
close
this one
out
and come up
the
on the
other
other one.
meat
Okay, Fred, we'll
totally.
see you in a second.
Okay.
Scott, I had to close out the current meats.
That's what
The past one, yeah.
I'm really sorry. Fred is hearing half conversation. He's hearing me. He's not hearing you guys, and you're hearing me, and you're not hearing Fred because I've got both meats open still, and that's what he just decided to do, Judy. Shut it and then come in. Here he is. Welcome, Fred. Oh, and I'm still on. There we go. Welcome to the second half of this meeting. We should be ready to go now. I have no idea where we were, though. I'm sure I was saying amazing things.
Of course you were.
It was golden. It was couldn't live without that info. Let's see. Unless there's a specific topic, we could pull one of the ones from this document I've got here. Here's something. If you're a Windows 11 user out there, this is I don't have a Windows 11 computer in my life right now. We talked last week about some hidden features that people aren't aware of. I think it was a list of like 15 things you should try if you're Windows 11. Well, just recently, I think with the last update, they have added, if you guys can see this on my screen, the to running apps, an option in the context menu to end the task. So if you're running Windows 11 right now and it's up to date, I encourage you to look for this. Normally you get this context menu when you go down to your taskbar. You see those little dots or lines under the apps that are currently running. If you click using your right mouse button, this context menu will come up. One of the options is to end the task, which is awesome. This should work for frozen tasks. And this is something that if you're a Windows user, since the very beginning, you would get up the task manager to find what's frozen, end the task. And it's typically a 2 to 3 step process to close that frozen program. And now it's right on the taskbar. And I'm curious how effective this is going to be, because if you are a Windows user, you may recall that there are times that you need to end a task and it is freezing Explorer. It is freezing the taskbar. So you can't even access the taskbar, and if that's the case, I don't find this to be as helpful as it looks like it wouldn't be available to you in the circumstance. But if you're running Windows 11 and you have the latest update, I believe that you are able to now click on it with the right mouse button and kill those tasks. How's that for a light topic? Anybody have any questions on that? Nobody cares? You don't have frozen programs any longer?
Of course, I have questions.
Hey, in this article in your Windows computer, it shows you exactly how to get this button turned on if it's not turned on by default.
What do you mean by frozen?
Well, and it's probably been a long time since you thought about it, Chester, if you're spending most of your time in the cloud. But
I spend no time in the cloud.
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe I misspoke that. If you're spending most of your time in a web browser, if you spend most of your time in Chrome or Internet Explorer, or it's not Internet, then you're probably not familiar with this any longer. But this is really a problem with Windows applications. Your Photoshop, when it freezes up and is not running any longer and you need to kill it, this is the way you would kill the program. You tell it to just tell the computer, let go of the program. Just let it go. I've given up trying to save my work. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I need my computer back. That's when you've killed a process or you've ended a task. And so that ability was only available. I wish I had a Windows computer in front of me right now that I could show you on the screen. But you would do like a Control Alt Delete. That would bring up a list of the tasks that you're running, and then you would find the one that says it's not responding, would select it, and you would hit a button to end the task. That's how you used to do this. And
I don't think that's an issue for me, but I did install the voice typing.
oh, fun. That's one of the things I miss the most when I'm working on my desktop, is being able to dictate to a keyboard. Have you found it really effective?
I just ran a test on it. I just haven't had an opportunity to need it, but I plan to use it whenever I get when I have a need.
Yeah, I use a voice keyboard for my phone all the time, and I find that I find it so effective that I will use like WhatsApp on the desktop to do things like pass links and photos, but then go to my phone to voice text to the WhatsApp. So I'll go back and forth when I'm on the desktop. I do the same thing with Messenger for iMessage and for Facebook Messenger because I want that keyboard so bad. So I'm excited that there's a Windows version out there that has a voice activated. You know, if you work in Google Docs, they have a built-in voice keyboard that is very effective. You bring open a Google Doc, a blank document, turn on the voice keyboard, you can just start talking. And you can float around in it and add punctuation. It's got an off and on button, a big off and on button that sits off to the side of your document. So you can turn it on and turn it off at will. I recommend it if you're doing writing and somebody that likes to brainstorm out loud.
In that connection, there's another program I like that allows me to edit a PDF, and that's Reddit.
Wait, did you say Reddit? That doesn't sound right, Chester.
Maybe that's not the way to pronounce it.
How do you spell it?
I think it's Redditt.
Redditt. All that's coming up is the Reddit service. You know, this is like a social network of news exchange, but I'm sure this isn't what you're talking about.
It's a PDF program.
Edit. Oh. Well, where'd you get it?
Well, let me go offline and I'll go look it up and get back to it online.
Online PDF edit. Expect privacy. Really come in a long time. I made a free PDF editor. Could this be it? Could this be the reason you think it's Reddit? Is because somebody on Reddit made this 2 years ago?
No, let me go on hold and I'll look it up and get back to you.
Could it be Simple PDF?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. And there is just the four of us, Chester, so you could bring it with you next week if you want. Or you could go get it now. Here is a topic that I thought you guys would find interesting about Intel processors. If you're buying a computer right now, this might be something to think about. This is Intel's 13th and 14th generation processors. Their latest processors people have been reporting random problems, rebooting, freezing up, and it turns out the issue is excessive electricity damaging the processor. You guys with me? Fred, are you with me? Jim? Chester? I can't tell if you're still on.
Yeah, I'm still here. I was interested in this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do
I'm
you mean
here.
by excessive
I'm still here.
electricity?
Yeah. So if you were, this is voltage peaks going beyond. How's a good way to put this? The tolerances assumed have been exceeded. That they assumed that the processor could handle voltage peaks up to a level without problem, and it turns out it can't. And the higher voltage translates into higher performance. That's the whole idea. And so they have found that these 13th, 14th generation CPUs, specifically ones that have ranges up to 65 watts or from 65, will cause damage running at that performance. Unfixable damage, permanent damage. And so this is a very interesting problem to run into. This is a large article that you can read on your own. But the gist of it is there are people out there that bought the latest processors from Intel. In fact, my daughter and I being one of them, and I'm really curious if this is affecting our processor, that are having flaky experiences, and it has to do with excessive electricity being used to boost the performance of that processor. Yes. I would imagine specifically in video, video processing and video game playing, things that are processor intensive. So you're looking for that higher wattage. The processors are degrading over time.
So they're not talking about spikes?
No, they're talking about running at high voltage for performance and doing damage over time to the processor. It's been a very complicated, difficult issue to sort out. But
how would they fix it?
They will. They have. And that's the frustration, Fred, is that they have released a BIOS update that will prevent those higher peaks of electricity to be used. You would not be able to crank it up to that voltage through a software governor. But nothing about the software fixes the processors that are already damaged. And that's what this issue now becomes. Is Intel has not released any statement on whether they would replace or extend warranties on any of these processors. I suspect that we're going to follow this issue a while until there's some kind of weird class action against them. Because they have a fix. This won't be a problem as we go forward. But there are people out there with damaged processors that are not all that old that are not being covered by warranty at the moment. They're old enough to not have warranty, new enough to have this problem. So it's also the kind of problem that doesn't show up until there's been some use on the device. So you could imagine a gamer going at it every 5 days a week for 8 hours a day is probably experiencing this problem a lot quicker than you or I just doing office tasks for a couple of years.
How would you troubleshoot it?
Oh, well, I think probably the best way I mean, you're asking me on the fly, and I think what I would want to do is I would want to eliminate that as being a potential problem. I thought I read in here somewhere that they were working on a piece of software that would help you identify whether it's been damaged or not. Yeah, it looks like... Oh, and let me also say the microcode isn't going to be released until the middle of this coming month. Yeah, and they're looking for some way to make it possible to identify whether the CPU is a potential for having problems. But it really is. It says right here it's a preventative solution for processors already in service. Let me get back to Intel not commenting on anything. They're not making any moves to bring back inventory like a recall. That's not on the table right now. This article's from 4 days ago, and I haven't seen anything yet. It says that they're going to recall their processors because of this problem. There are computers in the pipeline that are out there. They're at Best Buy, they're at Walmart, they're at Amazon. That they are not trying to. Their manufacturers are not being insisted to bring them back. So this is an update that will come out in the middle of August. If I imagine how it would work in this modern scenario, they would give the update to Microsoft. Microsoft would push it out with their updates. It would be a firmware update, but it would happen in the background. You wouldn't be aware of you're getting a firmware update unless you were somebody like me really do it. But I think this affects my purchasing decisions at this moment. I think that if their fix is a BIOS update, then the 13th and 14th gen processors that are coming off the line now will have this fix in it. Any other processor out there in the marketplace has the potential of not having the fix until you put it in. Like Microsoft, like I described, Microsoft puts. Also has the potential of already having had damage because it's already out there in the marketplace. So it's very unclear, but I think in my perspective, I would hold on buying any 13th, 14th generation Intel chip based computer at the moment for fears that there may be problems in the future. You might be dealing with warranty issues. I think I would at least wait until the fix is out before I start putting wear on one of these processors. The fact that it can wear out bothers me. Right? It's, you know, Fred, you've probably heard the term binning before. This is where they really don't make 3 different tiers of processors. They just throw the ones in the correct bin based on how their performance is. So they do they do like a burn-in test, and they see that it can go up to a certain performance for a certain amount of time without failure, and that gets put in that bin. They see it shows a failure at a certain performance, they drop it down a performance. You go from 4 gigahertz down to 3.5 gigahertz, down to 2 gigahertz. Learn, oh, well, at 2, this processor's not a problem. They throw that in that bin. Follow what I So when you buy these chips at specific specs, they weren't built at those specific specs. They were tested specific specs. Anyway, I kind of feel like there's a hold on Intel purchasing right now, especially with these ARM chips out there. I know I'm in need of a new computer, and I keep going back and forth on what platform I should be on as far as the hardware goes. It makes the idea of buying a Mac laptop for myself much more prescient because they're already on ARM and they already have a large software stack that can be used, whereas in the Windows world, that's right now being developed. If you live in the web browser, though, it's probably not part of your decision making. Live in the web browser, you're not a gamer, and you're not somebody that's installing Windows-based software. That's just not the thing you're doing. These new ARM-based Windows laptops are amazing. 20-hour battery lives, instant on stability. If I wasn't who I am, if I was just a general, I need a big screen with a keyboard to do my internet stuff, these are awesome laptops. Oh, and you'd have to be a Windows enthusiast and want a touch screen. They still don't have a touch screen on the Mac. That's where you get into the iPad, and that's where things like, Fred, we were talking about, you can't click on the link to open up the next meet. So you can't, not because it's not powerful or enough or impressive. It's because they have such a lockdown on the operating system. The developers are under these constraints that cause problems like that. You're not using a real version of Google Meet. You're using a version of Google Meet that they were able to encapsulate under Apple's constraints of what an app on an iPad is allowed to do. And it's a different environment. Desktop computer. We could go into other topics, but I see we're at like an hour 15, and I kind of think we should roll this meeting out since it's just the four of us. I will give you guys a chance to make some recommendations if you're interested. Is there anything out there that the rest of us should know about?
Well, I have a movie that I've been wanting to have put in your email.
Sure. What
And
movie?
It's a Netflix, and it's called Forgotten Love.
Adding that to the list, right? Does it have anybody in it we know?
No.
Okay. What I normally do is I look these up on tracks, so I can what they're about and put a link in the document. 2023, Forgotten Love. Once respected surgeon who lost his family and his memory gets a chance at redemption. Reconnects with someone forgotten past. Well, look at this. I think it's already on our list. Somebody has already recommended this meeting. Or this movie. Is this the one, Chester? Are you looking at my screen?
Yes.
Is that the one you're talking about?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
Could be. It's been on a while, and it's just a very, very good movie.
Hey, I want to recommend one called Thelma. You guys seen this yet? I think it's on. Thelma is a lot of fun. Yuya and I were laughing out loud. This is a movie about a 93-year-old woman that gets duped by a phone scammer and decides to go after him herself. It's a little bit of an action comedy, and she's an awesome character. And what I really appreciated right at the beginning of the movie, you follow her getting scammed, and you watch it, and you're like, these are the things we talk about in computer. These are the things that are happening right now out in the world, and she's thinks everything's on the up and up, and is emotionally triggered by what she's being told on the phone. She's prompted into action immediately. She's trying to vet her, trying to get somebody to tell her that this is BS, or to verify what's going on. And it's a classic example. The beginning of this movie is a classic example of the kind of scams that are being perpetuated on seniors right now. Then the rest of the movie is how she tracks them down and gets her revenge. It's an awesome movie. It's easily a family movie too. There's nothing in it that's vulgar or over the top. It's absolutely a great watch.
Sounds good.
Sounds very good.
And then the other thing I put on here was Elsbeth. You guys are probably more familiar with this character than I am. I have never watched The Good Wife or those shows, but apparently this is a character that spun out of one of those shows. she's got some kind of strange autism something, or just a quirky personality, but they've spun off her own show, and she's in New York doing the kind of thing she does, but following the police. What is her job is to be oversight for the police, because the police have gotten in trouble for. And so she's not actually doing that. She's actually solving the crimes. And what we decided after getting about the 6th episode in is this is our new Monk. This is like watching Monk. If you're a Monk fan, this is that show.
See you next week.
All right, Chester, Fred, you and Jim have anything you want to add to our list?
Nope, I don't have anything today.
All right.
No, I don't either.
Well, if that's the case, and you guys have nothing more to forever hold your peace, or at least until next Tuesday,
Okay.
I'll call this
Okay.
meeting to an end. Until next Tuesday at 10, everyone, tech on.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
You too, Fred.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jim. All right, that's it. We did it again. That was our Tuesday meeting virtually, since I'm in Alaska and everyone else is somewhere else other than San Carlos. Our namesake is not being represented in these meetings right now because we're all snowbirds in different locations. Until next Tuesday, everyone out there in internet land, you tech on. See you at next meeting.